guys, welcome back to the Big Intentions podcast. I'm your host, Iralyn. So excited to be back on the pod with you all today. Let's just go over a couple of little housekeeping things. This podcast comes out every Thursday, so always stay tuned on Thursdays. I hope you're having a great day when you're listening to this. And if you are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, if you would leave a 5-star rating or review, that would be so beneficial to the podcast. Really helps grow the podcast, get it in other people's ears. And then also, if you're watching this on YouTube right now, pause the video, like, subscribe, comment. Just do something that interacts with the channel. It really helps my podcast to get out there. So without further ado, let's just jump in right into the segments. We're going to start with living out loud. So a couple of things to kind of update you on, just kind of some life updates, but really just like things I've been thinking about that could probably potentially be a whole podcast episode, but just some things that have kind of been like on my mind. So I recently listened to the Manifest by Tori T. Simone podcast, and she was talking about deep work, and she did a whole episode on this, and really how deep work is moving the needle 1% every single day and working towards your dream life, and how deep work is really that uninterrupted time to just really like fully embrace whatever project or business or passion, whatever you're working on, really like being so plugged into that and just like totally eliminating all distractions and really focusing on the deep work. And she talked about the whole concept of working in your business versus working on your business, and how like working in your business is doing the little admin things, promotional things, whatever, but working on something is really doing that strategy, deep level, high level work. And so I recently was doing this because I had seen a podcast or a TikTok about like content creation, and it was just like this really interesting concept of like the strategy behind it. And so I sat down and was like, I feel like I'm such a big like notebook person. Like if I have like a physical notebook and can write, like it just helps me process things so much better. And so that's what I've been doing with the podcast scripts, is like physically writing these things out. It's a little harder for me to follow this script, but she also talked about that in her podcast, like just literally not having your phone, computer, anything, just a piece of paper. And I feel like that's something that we kind of neglect these days, but I really have been leaning into like pen and paper and just like embracing being in the moment, being in the flow, the zone. And so I think it's been helpful for me at least. And so I just wanted to share that with you all. If that's something that you've been like struggling to be productive, or there's like a lack of, I don't know, like not motivation, but like it's just really hard to focus, I feel like, with your phone and all of these distractions. And so I would just encourage you to literally unplug, grab your, notebook, write down what you're trying to figure out. I just think that's like a good concept. So that's one thing I wanted to kind of touch on in the living out loud section. Another thing was, so this past weekend, me and Spencer did a photo shoot with his new lens for his camera. And it was literally I love dressing up and like just going somewhere. So I got to do that. But then I got like these cool photos from it too. And I posted them on my Instagram, and he also made this like short little 15-second video, but it was just like these slow-mo clips of me like walking around, and I don't know, but it was so fun and like creative. And I just really want to embrace doing things like for the sake of doing things. Like, yes, it was fun to go capture content, but like we really had no purpose for doing it other than we just like wanted to go do it, and it was so fun. And so just finding things that you're interested in and like really leaning into those things. And that's what was so cool. It's like we didn't have an agenda, but we were just genuinely interested in doing these things. And so I think that's really important, to find things that you like, care that much about, or enjoy that much that you're just doing them for the sake of doing them. And so I wanted to bring that up. It was so fun. So you should go check out my Instagram at Iralyn12 and check out the photos and videos, and shout out Spencer for that because it was so fun. Another thing that I kind of wanted to talk about in the living out loud was time blocking, and really trying to structure my days better and more effectively for my schedule, so that I'm not like randomly like just throwing these things in, like making my time blocking and my schedule way more cohesive with my life. So for example, this past Sunday, I just took a couple of hours to playlist for my spin classes this week, and it's like so much more effective. I have enough time like to prep and listen to those listen to those songs, listen to the music, get familiar with it, and like not be stressed about, oh, tomorrow I have a spin class, let me make this playlist. It's like they're already established, I already have them. And of course I can make changes along the way, but like I feel way more secure and like prepped for something if I've already dedicated this set amount of time. I already know a week ahead of time, like, okay, this time is dedicated to or for these specific tasks, and I want to keep doing this like throughout my schedule, but like just kind of slowly implementing things whenever I figure out like the ideal days. Like for example, Tuesdays and Thursdays, okay, my Tuesday I really want to be dedicated for my podcast. And so like when I'm done with work, I'm scripting my podcast, maybe scripting them on Mondays and recording them on Tuesdays, or like just really like batching your work and grouping things together that makes sense. Like if I have a lot of calls for work, I want to group them together and like get them all in that kind of segment of time. That way it just makes for a more cohesive day. It's like calls in the morning, work in the afternoon. Things like that just makes your life so much more seamless and kind of helps your mind stay focused on those tasks. If you can kind of like group those things together and like batch things out, I think it's like way helpful. So that's just kind of what I wanted to talk about for the living out loud and content. Really haven't been consuming that much content, except for I'm still trying to get through the freaking A Simple Wild book, and I'm sorry, but like not worth your time. Like I'm over halfway and I'm still like, when is it gonna get juicy? It's just like never gotten to that point. So unless something really crazy happens in the end, I'm just like not feeling it. And I just want to plug also here my Goodreads, because I've had a lot of people asking me like if I have Goodreads or what is Goodreads like. And so let me just break it down. Goodreads is the best form of social media ever. You basically just post what you're reading, what you want to read. You can creep on other people's like status of how far they are along with in a book. If you're in a book club, it's really great for keeping tabs on people and like seeing where they're at in the book, because me and my friends are in a group and I'm like, oh crap, like she's almost done, like let me get on this. It's just perfect. I don't really actually, like I rate the books, but I don't really write full in-depth reviews. I guess you could. If I felt really strongly about a book, I might. Like there's this one book that I've been recommending to people like all the time, and I'm like, maybe I should just write a review and like snip that and like be like, here, this is what I think about this book and why you need to read it. But anyways, I love getting asked what I like. People ask me what they should read. Like I love giving a book rec. So you need to follow me on Goodreads. I'll link my Goodreads down below. Like we have to be friends on there because I'm obsessed with reading and Goodreads. And also I really need to be more diligent about what books I'm picking, because like I hate like not finishing a book. Like it's kind of annoying. Like I've done that with several, but for example, this one, A Simple Wild, I'm like, maybe if I would have read the reviews a little bit more closely, I wouldn't have gotten stuck in this book. And just because somebody recommends a book to you doesn't mean you have to read it. Also, just feel like I should make that point. Cause like I'm just like really not enjoying this book, but I read it because it was recommended by a friend, and like no shade, like that might be just, some books aren't for everybody, and I feel like I'm wasting my time reading this book, but it's fine. And it's really making me super slow on reading and like getting behind, because I'm just not interested in like finishing this book. So I'll let you guys know when I do finish it and if I ended up liking it better, but it's fine. So let's just move on into intentional living. And my intention for this week is really to work on not comparing my life to others and like FOMO. It's really not like, it's not people in my personal life. So it's really mostly like I consume a ton of content like online and like social media, vlogs, whatever. And it's just like the idea of like I should be doing these things. So like FOMO, which is the fear of missing out. Like I feel like I'm missing out on my life sometimes, or I'm going to regret some parts of my life because I'm not super focused on like putting in the attention. Like, for example, my social life, pretty much don't have one. And so I feel like I just always feel FOMO about it because I'm like, I'm not doing anything about it. And I feel like I'm going to look back and kind of regret that. But is it like I'm actually going to regret that? Or is it just the idea that like I should be doing something and that's why I have this fear of missing out? Because I see other people doing it and I feel like I also should be doing it. Like, is that really a priority to me? So is it something that I really want? Is it something that I really feel like I want to be doing or I feel like I should be doing? And so that kind of brings me into this idea of should. And basically I was kind of like researching this because I feel like this has been coming up a lot recently. It's like, I feel like I should be doing this. I feel like there's so many like expectations that I place on myself. And so the idea of should is implicitly reinforcing the idea that we're not doing something. And so this is why the word should is like kind of negative, because focusing on why, basically focusing on should, you're just reinforcing that you're not doing that thing. So instead of like, you should be doing this thing, one, you can focus on why you want to do that. So with me, like, okay, having a social life, I feel like I should have one. Okay, but why do I feel like I need a social life? Like, besides the obvious reasons, it's like, well, I feel like I'm missing out on the aspect of community, and I feel like I'm maybe not filling my cup in that way that it could be filled. And I also know that I have a lot to give. And so whenever, like, when you're someone that feels like you bring good energy and you have good energy to put out into the world, I feel like when you're not doing that, you feel like you're not like fully relinquishing your full power. Or like not to be like narcissistic, but it's like people are missing out on your energy and the goodness that you have to bring to the world and like the light that you have to shine. So I just feel like that's something that I really just need to pour more of my energy into, like actually making these things happen and like creating structures and systems that allow me to do these things. Because I just feel like it's not happening. I don't know. So I think it's just an area that I really could focus more of attention, like pay more of my attention to. And I have some ideas for it of how I could just like kind of seamlessly integrate having a social life. Like, I know this sounds so basic, and like if you have friends and you're somebody that hangs out with people, you're like, why is this even a big deal? But if you are like move to a new city, or it's not easy for you to like find your people, or maybe you're more selective with your people, which I don't think that's a bad thing, then it's just kind of a really difficult thing. And it's like, I don't know, I feel like this is a whole other podcast episode of like making friends and being social and the expectations. And I don't know, it's just hard to kind of find a balance. I've always kind of been a lone wolf, so it doesn't really bother me that much, but then it's just like this idea of should. And so I'm just trying to lean into like why I need a social life, or why I feel like I'm missing out, those kind of things. So that's just kind of been on my mind. Wanted to talk about that. And that's basically my intention, is to work on the whole FOMO thing. And yeah. So anyways, let me know what your intention is down below, because I'm curious what you guys are like going through, working through, whatever. So let's just move into the next segment, which is words to live by. And this is by Brene Brown. I found this quote on Pinterest, and it goes, "Choosing to be curious is choosing to be vulnerable because it requires us to surrender to uncertainty. It wasn't always a choice. We were born curious, but over time we learn that curiosity, like vulnerability, can lead to hurt. As a result, life turns to self-protecting, choosing certainty over curiosity, armor over vulnerability, and knowing over learning." So basically, this quote kind of is like the guiding light for the episode, and something that really inspired the whole concept of the episode of certainty versus curiosity. And I think curiosity is what leads us to new paths, leads us to becoming higher versions of ourselves, discovering our new interests and passions, and leading us to success. Curiosity can bring new people and new interests and just newness to life. And so curiosity is essential to our ever evolving self and self-development into becoming the highest versions of ourselves, versus certainty, which can lead to contentment and comfortability, and it can lead to stagnation, which hinders growth. So this kind of leads right into our main topic on curiosity. So what is curiosity? It's a strong desire to know or learn something. It's a quality to inquisitive thinking, such as exploration, investigation, learning. And I think embracing your curiosity is crucial to self-development and growth and becoming the highest version of yourself. So I feel like curiosity is something that it's always been like a part of who I am. Like, I'm a natural student, learner. I always love school and learning, and I really have always embraced like self-exploration and like trying new things. Like, I'm never afraid to try new foods, new restaurants, travel. Like, self-exploration always was like super into it. But I think I also used to view curiosity as a weakness in some aspects, because when it came to expressing curiosity to others, or like basically, being inquisitive and having kind of like questions, I don't know where it stems from. Like, I could do some more deep work on this, but I just always viewed like expressing that as a negative thing, like as a weakness almost. So externally expressing curiosity would always like make me feel inferior to others, or like if somebody was maybe asking other questions, like there honestly would be some judgment about like, why are they so curious? Like, why don't they just figure this out on themselves? Like, I don't know, there was just something about curiosity in terms of like an external expression of it that just made me view it as negative. And for example, I would like in college, I would never ask questions to professors, or like I would never go to office hours. I would never email professors. Like, something about that just made me like, they're not going to respect me as much. And something about figuring out the answers on my own made me feel more like elite or more powerful. Like, it was a sign of strength if I could figure it out on my own. But when I realized the benefit to utilizing your resources and embracing my curiosity, it really allowed me to seamlessly and more effectively operate and fully understand like the thing that I was being curious about. And so it led to like a deeper level of understanding and really confidence in something, because I was actually reinforcing the thing that I was curious about. I was really getting those real answers and like reinforcing it by utilizing those resources. And so all of that to say, expressing your curiosity is really key to growth, and especially in terms of social interactions and getting to know people and developing relationships and friendships on a deeper level. Being curious about people is really essential, and people love talking about themselves. So asking people about themselves, really not letting things like just stop at like the simple answer to the question, but really like digging deeper into somebody's answer and be like, oh, like asking those deeper, like more thought-provoking questions, and really like embracing that, because that's how you really form connections with people. And I think that's just, people love to talk about themselves. So like, that's one way to make friends, is just ask somebody about themselves and like keep being inquisitive and curious about people. And one, you can learn a lot for yourself, but also it like makes people more comfortable around you if they're like almost seen as like the expert in the subject matter or whatever. And so I've definitely made a more conscious effort to do this lately, and it really allows people to feel like they are able to open up, and like they're whatever you're asking about, like you're taking a real genuine interest in that thing. And so there are some obvious perks to curiosity, like one, developing these deeper relationships and connections, and why I think being curious is so essential and beneficial. And so I want to talk to some of those like benefits of curiosity and why it's important to implement these things. So one, curiosity is essential to growth, which I saw this quote that says, "What I've learned is growth takes curiosity, curiosity takes courage, and courage takes a willingness to be vulnerable." And so kind of like tying it back to like me being afraid to ask questions, seeing it as a weakness, kind of the same thing as vulnerability and how a lot of people see vulnerability as a weakness, but really it's not. It's really, it takes that vulnerability to be curious, and that just takes a level of like humbling yourself and admitting that you don't know everything and you don't have all the answers, and that there are experts out there and you can get a better answer. You can find the best whatever you're looking for if you're willing to be curious and to be vulnerable and have the courage to ask those questions and to admit that you don't know everything. And you're really going to grow so much more, and it's essential to growth to be curious. So areas of improvement can be, some areas that you might naturally be curious about because you're interested in improving yourself and finding ways to improve. So starting with like, something that you're not like satisfied with in your life or could be better, that's a great like first step of like, okay, I'm identifying an area of improvement in my life, and being more curious about that thing and like researching that thing can lead to growth in that area and developing yourself more in that area. So it's not always an easy feat to be curious and to kind of find things out about yourself, because ultimately when you're digging deeper into the why and how you think about things, you might uncover things that you're not like comfortable with, you're not willing to admit you're not the best at or whatever, but it is really crucial to growth. And so I think that's just one thing that's really important is asking yourself why about things and really digging into that and getting curious about that, kind of leading back to the whole beliefs concept. And why was I like so afraid to ask a question? Well, it's like I saw curiosity as a weakness. I didn't want other people to think I was weak or, stupid or whatever like that reason was. And so I think it's important to really like identify that at the end of the day so that you can identify these areas of improvements and work towards becoming that higher version of yourself. And so another benefit to implementing curiosity is it increases your adaptability and resilience and allows you to embrace change. And so it allows you to become more agile and adaptable, and it makes adapting and coping with change easier and overcoming difficulties a little bit more seamless if you have this curiosity that you've kind of built. And so I feel like my curiosity has allowed me to fully embrace change. So for example, I've lived in 2 different cities post-grad. So I moved to Raleigh, North Carolina. I lived there for 8 months. Then I moved to Dallas, Texas, which is where I live now. And so I've always been curious though, like from a really young age, really always been independent and just always tell myself like, not in Eastern Kentucky where I'm from. And so just being curious naturally about different places and different ways of life, different lifestyles, that really made me like adaptable or made me able to embrace change even more. So like, yes, moving to these new cities was not easy, but also it was like I was so already like had the idea of change and curiosity in my mind that it really made those transitions a lot more seamless, because I was just so excited about what else there was out there and like what I could learn. And so I feel like that just really helped me to embrace change. And I feel like I've been somebody who always is pretty good at change. Of course, there are some aspects where it's like, ooh, change is scary and whatever. But ultimately, like overall, I would say I really have embraced change. And I think it really can be attributed to my curiosity and just like my wonder for the world and like what's out there. And I just think it's really important to kind of nurture your curiosity and to develop it in order to really embrace change ultimately. And so obviously curiosity is the basis for creativity and innovation. And so that's how you can come up with like, I feel like when you're really like strapped for like a solution or whatever and you have to get creative, it's like you have to be curious about something, and you literally can find any answer probably on the internet. But so I kind of want to talk to developing your curiosity and how you can actually develop curiosity, because it is such an essential part of growth and like exploration and becoming the highest version of yourself and embracing change. I think it's really crucial that we develop and nurture this skill and really get more curious, because that's where like the magic happens. So, how to develop your curiosity? Number one is keeping an open mind. So, having that blank slate, being open to learning and unlearning and relearning. And so, I think it's really important to also not always associate your past experiences with certain things, because if you're only like relating your past experience to something, then you might not get that full understanding and depth and knowledge from what you could be learning now. So keeping an open mind, obviously easier said than done. But I think this is true even with like relationships. Like if you had a negative experience, or like this is how you were treated in a past relationship, or there's something that you expect in relationships, and then moving forward, you know, you can't carry all of your past experiences into new relationships. Obviously, like that's not going to be a positive experience for either party, but it can really hinder the growth. And so that's why like curiosity comes into play. And it's just, that's why you can't have these like negative past experiences like hold you back. Like, yes, you should learn from them and use them and as guiding lessons in your life, but it can't like limit you, because you have to just be curious about the new thing in front of you, and you might be able to like uncover information that you need just by being curious, really paying attention. I feel like this kind of leads into the next way to develop your curiosity, which is questioning everything. And that's really what curiosity is just that willingness to learn. You're like soaking up the environment that you're in and just really embracing like, what can I learn from these situations that I am in, and really just applying that curiosity to like every aspect of your life, taking notice of the things around you, just asking questions about the origin of things, like the existence of things, and really learning more about these things. One, it makes you like so cool if you just like kind of know a little bit about all these different things. And also, if you're like educated and in the know, like people are gonna want to talk to you. And like, I think it's cool to be super well rounded. Like, you know, the whole shtick of a master of, or it's like a jack of all trades, a master of none. And so like, yeah, you want to kind of like do the deep work and master some things, but also I think it's good to just know a little bit about everything, because then you can really talk to like any type of person and really like flex that skill of like being curious, because it really is like a flex if you kind of know like a little bit about everything. It just makes you cool, because I just think it's so fun whenever like I bring up the most random topic and somebody's like, oh yeah, and I'm like, oh, you know about that too? Like, that's just like so fun to me. That's why I love listening to like pop culture podcasts. Just one, to be like in the know about what's going on. And also why I love podcasts in general is because there's literally so many topics out there. Like, for example, curiosity, like if you want, you can literally find a podcast topic on anything. And it's just so cool to really like educate yourself and know a little bit about everything and to really develop those skills, because that's what makes you grow. Being curious about things, that's what leads to growth, becoming the highest version of yourself, which is what we're all about here on the Big Intentions podcast, becoming the highest version of yourself. That's why I love podcasting. I love deep diving into these topics and really really being able to flex that curiosity. Another way to, when you're questioning everything, is asking open-ended questions, especially when it comes to people. Kind of like I mentioned earlier, like if you ask somebody, what's your favorite restaurant? And they tell you, why'd you like that place? What was the vibe there? Like really just digging deeper and really just going beyond like surface level with people. I really just hate small talk. Like I really do want to dive deep with people. And I saw this quote on Pinterest. I think I saved it because, oh my gosh, it was literally like so me. I need to find it. It was about, I don't even know. Oh, I love people with curious minds and stubborn hearts who simply can't do small talk. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's literally so me. So I feel like I just like getting deeper with people, and I really do want to be like, what's your life story? And my dad is like so like that. He meets a stranger and knows their whole life story within 20 minutes. And I'm like, honestly, I need to pay more attention to like what you're saying and doing in those situations, because it's really cool. Like that's how you can just like get so much more out of life than just going through it and being like so self-absorbed and like so in your own head. And I just think it's so important to really ask people questions and like see other perspectives and be curious, because that's when you learn so much and you grow so much yourself. So even if it's like in a selfish way that you're asking people questions, it's still, you're asking people questions and like they feel good, they feel important. So open-ended questions, really good way, just really getting in the nitty-gritty with people. Okay, so asking people questions, being curious, whatever. So you can literally find, you can find people who are experts on something. If you want to be like more in the know about something, find an expert on it, a TikTok account, whatever it is. Find a podcast about it. Or like YouTube, there are literally endless amounts of information out there. So you could literally Google YouTube anything, you will find an answer. And another way to develop your curiosity is to diversify your interests and activate your mind. Find different avenues to do this, whether it's like a documentary, a book, really just like embracing different interests and getting curious about different things and different avenues of like how to actually like take in that information is a really good way to develop that curiosity as well. And finally, embracing the discomfort and really like eradicating certainty in your life and just getting comfortable being uncomfortable, and being more curious really makes you embrace that discomfort. Because like I said, even if you're asking yourself questions and like trying to dig deep, that's when you can uncover some things that you're like, I don't like love this about me. And it is really important to get uncomfortable and to be vulnerable. And like that quote said earlier about embracing being like having courage, being curious takes courage, and having courage takes vulnerability. And so like really just leaning into that and leaning into the discomfort will allow you to grow and become more curious, which is essential to becoming the highest version of ourselves. So that's all I have today on really being curious versus being certain about everything, admitting to yourself that you're not an expert and just really diving into this place of discomfort and learning and growing will allow you to become the highest version of yourself, and really like how to develop that curiosity in your life. And so I hope you guys found this episode helpful. I think that it really brings up like a lot of good, like thought-provoking, like how can I really implement curiosity into my life? What are areas of my life that I want to get more curious in? And really like applying it to like people and just different interactions that you have in life, and really just embracing how much you can learn and expanding knowledge and yeah, just really being like a student of life. And so that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you thought this was a beneficial episode. And if you did, you can leave a 5-star rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and like, comment, subscribe on the YouTube. And yeah, I'll catch you guys next Thursday. Thanks so much for listening or watching. Love you guys. Bye.